Hello, actuaries and other related analytics professionals, and of course, anyone else who's watching. Today, we are joined by Curtis Lee and Rich Junker to discuss their book, Design Your Future with the Competency Framework. It recently was made available in print, so I'm excited for you guys to meet them. Let's hear from them now.
Hello, Marilyn. Yes, I'm Curtis Robbins. Just briefly, I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. I have been an actuary mostly in the health practice over my career, but I had the opportunity in the latter part of my career to work with professional development for actuaries. And Rich and I have had the opportunity to team together over the last 10 plus years, championing the competency framework for the Society of Actuaries.
And I'm Rich Junker. I live in Germany currently, have lived here for 5 years now. My son Brian has lived here for about 15 years, so he's very, very well established. And of course, I enjoyed my actuarial career hugely, but I'm now retired as well. And I really am looking forward to the next several years of traveling and taking the advice of one of our contributors, Renata Deliers, to learn languages. We'll get into more of that in a little bit.
Yes, definitely. And I've heard that you did some travels recently, Rich. Were you in Spain?
Yes, it was 4 weeks, 5 weeks almost in Spain for the better part of it. My project has been in the last few years first to master German because I live here. And then I got satisfied that I was good enough at that I'd go on and learn French. So that was last year. I gave a year over to that. And I had a foundation from back in college because at Iowa, the liberal arts school, even the math folks had to take languages. Well, I found French was a good bit easier than math. So I stuck it for 2 years. So I had a nice foundation. And then, of course, once you live there, once you get there, all these words come back. So this past year, my mission is to advance my Spanish, which I had all of 1 semester in college years ago. But that's one of the premises of, I think, the message we have for everybody, that the seeds of what you ultimately grow up to become are set when you're much younger.
Yeah, definitely. And some immersive learning.
Yes.
Awesome. So I want to hear a little bit more about you guys and your actuarial career. When did each of you first find out about actuarial science?
I first learned of actuarial science from a friend who knew an actuary. And so they introduced me to the actuarial profession. I wasn't sure that was the direction I wanted to go, but since my father taught advanced mathematics and my mother was a graduate with a business, kind of put those two things together and thought, well, that seems like a good career path. So I chose that, and you might say the rest is history.
Definitely. How about you, Rich?
I started out in math because I was good at it, of course, like a natural to major, but I hadn't the least thought of what I was ever going to do with it. And I was really rather doubtful that I'd ever graduate from college. I had 3 brothers and sisters, and there wasn't a lot of money, but I got through. And then I just went to the placement service, and that was where it all started. I went on my first airplane flight out to Hartford, Connecticut with 0 actuarial exams. So I wasn't a pedigreed type of actuary, but I could pass exams, so I ultimately got through. And I think that's one of the important messages I like to share. We always think about the blessing of being in America, in the United States, is that with hard work and dedication, you can do anything with your life. And we have a lot of actuarial people that come in by different routes. For my part, my mother and father, 8th grade was the limit of their education, and they worked in a factory town. And I'm the example that you can build a nice life if you have some rudiment of talent and a good bit of dedication. On the other hand, there are other actuaries that come in. For example, one of my bosses was his father was president of a bank in Chicago. So my boss had the idea that he was going to, of course, do better than his father, even better. So he was not going to be happy in an actuarial career unless he became chief actuary, unless he became CEO. So it's all about expectations. For my part, I can't say that I ever became a CEO type or even a chief actuary, but everything has worked out beautifully. And I have two outstanding children who are doing fantastically. So that's the signature on my life. And the other is I am living my life exactly the way I want to live it. And I've been blessed to have great health so I can keep on doing it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of paths you can take with your actuarial career too, which is why it's so interesting for how niche it is. Um, they used to offer exams a lot less often, I feel like. Do you guys recall when that might have changed? I know they used to only let you take exams a couple of times a year even.
And my career was sort of divided. I started off majoring in computer science before I switched to actuarial science, and that was, sort of a passion and interest of mine, I guess you could say, back at the beginning of days. But then I started taking the exams when they were offered, you know, uh, at different times. I passed two exams before I finished my college degree at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. Was named outstanding senior in actuarial science, so I felt like a lot of things led to a good start for a career. I had an internship, which was with a life company, and I started my first couple years working with life companies. Then a baby came along, and that in our family, and it ended up my son, oldest son, and he ended up taking a lot of time with care, and I had trouble getting through what was then called Part 4, which is life contingencies or actuarial mathematics, some other maybe another topic these days. But the so I was thinking that maybe I needed to take a break from actuarial science, and I was one of those early pioneers, I guess you could say, going in the non-traditional path. I worked for a company that was doing time sharing, remote computing, and this goes back a long time. For those of you who are internet babies, I can tell you that going back in time, it all started with a network of computers linked together, and that was way before clouds or anything else that were around. And so I worked in this world where we were accessing computers remotely, and it was a great company. In fact, the company's still around, Automatic Data Processing, ADP, but it was a division that worked specifically for delivery of computer applications and platforms very much similar to what the Microsoft tools offer now with Word, with Excel, with time series analysis and modeling, project management. So it was a great time. And then Steve Jobs came along and decided he wanted to build a computer that fit on your desk. And so that led to the demise of our little operation, and with ADP Network Services in Indianapolis. And I thought, well, I need to shift back. So one of the great things about actuarial science is you can leave your career and come back to it. It's in such great demand, and so that's what happened. Unfortunately, to address your question regarding exams, when I came back, the actuarial curriculum changed, and so they divided all the exams into little pieces. And so,
Yes.
one of the exams that I had passed, I had to pass it again because they divided it into different pieces. So the moral of the story is, don't change careers if you don't have to, because they might just change the exam system on you, and you might have to go a longer path to get to where you want to go. So, but ultimately, I got my associateship, and I did take several fellowship exams because I was so far along in my career with working in fellowship level positions. I didn't commit the time with my life to be able to complete my fellowship, but I got the experience and expertise to operate as a fellow, and that helped position my career for many opportunities. So don't limit yourself by your credential. But at the same time, credentials go a long way toward opening doors. So that's my little bit of explanation of my own career path and passing exams, and how it can change over your career.
I started out when it was just twice a year. That was ample enough to me, it seemed. But it did shift over where there was a major transition. We still had in all from 10 exams to 9. But instead of losing out, my start was I had 0 actuarial exams. I only got hired because after the interview, they said, if you passed the general math exam, we'll hire you. So I worked for a couple of years, and I really wasn't signed up to be a corporate executive. What I did was I worked 2 years, I passed 3 actuarial exams, and then I thought, I'm done with being an actuary. I'm going to Europe. So I went to see the Olympics, and I had a great time, but I came back broke and, more importantly, extremely motivated, and I decided I would be an actuary after all. And I passed a couple exams, and I was an associate. I was on my way, and then they had this giant test that was 6 hours long. It really was a test of stamina, but I got 9 hours credit for that exam. So it's like passing 2 in the same sitting. And I was, as I said, very motivated, and I was in an ideal exam. I was the only actuarial student there, and we had 3 fellows that I absolutely adored, and I just said, every test, I've got to pass it because I have to know this, and I want to know the next subject because I want to be just the peer to these guys. And as a result, that's the advice I make to everybody. When you get into the track, into the gear, just pour the gas on. Do what you can to maintain your sanity, but don't take breaks. Plow through the exams. There are a lot of actuaries who have had the disjoints, their responsibilities, their family, whatever. And some of them are now, I mean, I know a couple people with failed exams 3 times over and become president of the Society of Actuaries. It isn't entirely brilliance or just exam taking talent. It is the package that you bring that makes for career success. And that's why we wrote our book, to give everybody what they need to be, as we call it, the complete actuary.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, and that does perfectly lead into what made you guys decide to write the book then? Just expanding on that more.
There's a long history as to how we came to write the book, but it really started at a casual after regional meeting, the Southeastern Actuaries Conference, where Rich and I met and started talking about doing a presentation on this topic, this new topic back in those days, on the Society of Actuaries Competency Framework. So we did a workshop. It was very successful, and we worked very closely with the person who helped put the Competency Framework together, Judy Powells, who's no longer at the Society of Actuaries. But they had done this amazing interview with 3,000 actuaries to come up with this competency framework, and we thought it deserved attention. And so Rich and I, with Rich's initiative, I joined Rich at his invitation to help him with this workshop, and it just leveraged into other presentations where we were then where Rich did a presentation to the general audience of the Southeastern Actuaries Conference. And a gentleman named Wolford London, who was head of the Actuaries of the Future section, recommended that we write an article. And of course, putting pen to paper, that one article turned into 3 and maybe 4, leveraged into 5 and maybe 6 ultimately articles over the series of articles that we put together, very successfully welcomed and received, and then re-platforming them with the international section, well read, well received, seeming to go well, and that set the stage. As we were partnering with the Society of Actuaries through our licensing agreement, we had the opportunity to get other advice as far as a book. They referred us to Actex Learning, that they were very interested in the topic and very much welcoming. So President of Actex Learning, Bill Morella, referred us to the Vice President of Marketing, Kim Neufer, who she and her team just really did a great job, motivated us to put together a book that helped us give us a platform to continue promoting the Society of Actuaries Competency Framework, but more importantly, we reach a wider audience, and as well as add content that would help people recognize the importance and value of the competency and the competency framework, because it seemed to be a little bit underutilized within the Society of Actuaries community. The competencies cover a wide range of technical skills through non-technical skills, including strategic thinking, as well as leadership and communications, other competencies, relationship management, quite a few that most actuaries don't pay much attention to as they're passing their exams or as they're doing their continuing education. But as they move along in their careers, you realize that that's something that's valuable for them to be able to get a job, keep a job, and get promoted. So those are the most important things when it comes to getting work. So competency is fundamentally important. Not the least of which it's something that's referenced in the Code of Conduct under Precept 1 that we are to act with integrity and competence as actuaries. So competence could mean a lot of things, but in the context of the Society of Actuaries, it means how can you become a better actuary to communicate to your colleagues and audiences, and even give you an opportunity to get into the C-suite. So what promoted us? We were just motivated to get the word out about the competency framework.
Yeah, definitely. Rich, do you have anything you want to add?
Oh, yes, I do. Certainly, we wanted to give back to the profession that's been so good to us. We wanted to demonstrate the humanity of actuaries. And because we have 26 contributors, each of them laying their souls out into what they believe to be the most important aspects of their own career thriving, that's what we were able to imbibe and absorb for our own benefit. From beyond that, I had my own personal vendetta or pain point to absolve. If you think of the ancient Greek orator Demosthenes, he was known as being very poor because he had a lisp and his elocution was terrible, but he put marbles in his mouth and he practiced and practiced and became the best orator in all of Athens. Well, I wasn't quite so hopeless as that, but it all started with my pain from when I was 16, 17 years old, being demoted from honors American history because I could not write a term paper. So that hurt me for many years. I avoided writing papers in college till my senior year. And at the same time, I always read vociferously. I was among the best in punctuating. I was really good at languages. So I had something working for me, so I didn't just give up on it. And it came along. I was working in my first job. We built a manual about all the treaties that we did in the reinsurance business. That was enormously successful. My first career success in writing. And then down the line, the actuarial memorandum for cash flow testing came up when the computers started coming along, powerful enough to let us do some real analysis. And it was my job, first, to choose the best computer, second, to choose an able assistant to help me out, build the model for the entire company, and third, to buy the software. And then fourth, to write the memorandum, 25 pages of methodology in the memorandum that required to describe every product in the business, to describe everything. And one of the fascinating things that I liked about this job was that with a model, we tried to portray human behavior, behavioral analysis. What is the probability that our product is going to get higher lapses? Here's what the competition's interest rates are these days. Here's what we're offering, and how far from the market are we? At some point, if we're way off the market, we're going to lapse out everybody. And if we're too good, well, we won't get any extra lapses. But there's a dynamic lapse formula that is either quadratic or exponential. And with those parameters, we actuaries love working with our numbers and trying to say which one is these products are more or less interest sensitive to the behavior of customers. What a great job. And so that triumph of writing, it was the document that was used year over year, refined year over year. And it was a natural that I would think, I just might be able to do something toward writing a book.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that does bring to, and like Rich, just continue with you for a sec. I know you both have written a lot of parts of the book, so with no bias, what would you say is one of your favorite parts of the book, or some of your favorite quotes that you want to point to?
Well, I think Curtis might agree too that chapter 8 is the one about the heroes of noble purpose. I pick out 4 people that I admire hugely, and I try to portray to the readers why it's valuable for them to have their own personal heroes and why their talents translate into becoming an effective actuary as well. It started with the Competency Framework. You've got a survey of 100 questions to answer about how you judge your talents currently on all these dimensions, communication, leadership, and so forth, versus where you want to be in 5 years, where you think your customers or your manager or your company wants you to be. So that's about 45 minutes. And then it identifies on average the gaps from all these questions that have been asked. And then it dumps it into a spreadsheet, a very elaborate spreadsheet that says DMAIC, divine, measurable, time bound, and so forth. I don't remember them all. Anyway, before you go into that, even though actuaries love spreadsheets, it is a bit tedious, especially picking out from the actuarial meetings that address this, because most of it's all technical stuff anyway, which is why our book is so good, because we have all the points of how to develop these talents outside of actuarial meetings, much more than you can do in 60 minutes. So that's where we took it.
Yeah, Curtis, you go ahead. What are some of your favorite parts of the book or quotes you want to point to?
Well, I have several favorite parts of the book. Of course, Rich's chapter 8, Heroes of Noble Purpose, is an amazing way to sort of wrap up and transition the book. One of my favorite parts of the book, though, are the references that are made from our contributors. Rich mentioned that we have 26 successful contributing actuaries to the book, and they, many of whom were former presidents of the Society of Actuaries or rising stars. And so we have a chapter 7, which provides some context of history as well as interviews format with 14 actuaries who answer 3 questions and a tip. And it's the tips that are really important from their careers to kind of help you understand what worked for them in their career. And yeah, that part 3 is also an important chapter section as well, which focuses on each of the competencies and actuaries that have used those competencies to help them in their careers, and they tell their career breakthrough stories on those particular competencies. And the companion articles, chapters 5 and 6, feature 2 specific actuaries, Phil Gold and Christine Hoffbeck, who both have had successes in their careers, and so they offer advice as well as comment on how the competencies have helped with their careers and their career breakthroughs. And so those are awesome. I would be remiss if I didn't include chapter 4, which is the one that I mostly did myself for my own career, because it talks about purpose and direction. It talks about emotional intelligence and social intelligence, how your talents and personalities work for you, and how qualification and performance are tied together to help you communicate. Again, to help people recognize the motivation and a purpose for becoming competent is beyond just the learning about the competency itself. One particular couple quotes, if I may just digress from part 2, the introduction to part 2. The Society of Actuaries has a quote which is often referenced in many of the as a motto. The work of science is to substitute facts for impressions, or for appearances, and demonstrations for impressions. It's a quote from John Ruskin from the Stone of Venice. But one of our contributors, Dave Snell, wrote an article once with another author that in one of the newsletters about that particular quote, and said that it goes beyond just science. And early in my career, I had an actuary tell me that actuarial science is more art than science. And so I was impressed when I saw the rest of the quote, which introduces part 2, which says science and art are commonly distinguished by the nature of their actions, the one knowing and the other changing, producing, and creating. So read the entire quote. It's the introduction to part 2 for the rest of the story on substituting facts for appearances and demonstrations for impressions. Art is just as important, and it's very important, especially if you're going to develop competencies that will help you in your career. And the last I would mention is the introduction to part 3. The introduction to part 3 is done by Dave, not Dave, by Dale Hall, pardon me.
Mm-hmm.
Dale Hall is currently the research actuary at the Society of Actuaries, but he had years ago helped out with the competency framework itself. And so as part of that, he was included with a video that's on the website of the Society of Actuaries and tells a little bit about why it's important to have the competency framework. So we include this quote from the video, which says, engage with the competency framework to add together strong technical skills with those ideas of being a good communicator, of being a good leader, of thinking strategically. You know, there's a lot of power that's available when you combine a strong technical base with good ideas, good innovation, good strategic thinking. And again, that's Dale Hall from the Society of Actuaries. And so that's one of my favorite quotes from the book.
Yeah, that's great. And I know one thing that a lot of actuaries just like about being an actuary is the collaboration in general and all the different perspectives you get. So it's really nice that it's all there in one place and from so many actuaries that are known in the community and that I know a lot of younger actuaries look up to as well. So that's great that they have access to that.
They are all such of a mentor mindset. And that's one of the points we make in the book. You've got this book in hand, feel free to contact these people, even if they are former presidents, Society of Actuaries, board members, and so forth. They all started out the same, and they all want to help somebody else make a step up the line as well.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that's really special about the Action Builder career and that specifically.
Yeah, and I want to build on that a little bit because one of the things I didn't mention, another favorite part of mine, is all the contributors wanted to highlight not just how the competencies themselves helped their careers, but what they did in their careers to become who they were. And that part of that was volunteering, you know, with all the different volunteer opportunities within the profession, mentoring, helping other people, as Rich just referenced, and other things, just other things that they do in their career, from getting career advice from others. You know, those are things that were part of that chapter 7 I was telling you about. The 3 questions and a tip is a common tip from everyone.
So I know I don't know if you guys wanted to share a little bit about some of what you guys have been up to recently. I know you had a presentation at Ball State.
Well, yes. So the book was introduced last year at the end of June 2024. Since then, we had the opportunity to advance our cause through Marilyn and the D.W. Simpson blog, and so that was a big highlight for us. Prior to that, of course, after the presentation at the annual meeting in 2023, we had the opportunity to do a webinar with the Actuaries of the Future in March of 2024. Little did we know through the LinkedIn connection that we made with the current president, or the president to be, I should say, Dave Dillon, that he mentioned that he thought the competency framework was important. So we spoke with him and did a little video. Well, it was more of an audio podcast for the health section that was introduced in January of this year. So that's something else that we've done. And of course, Ball State University, we had the opportunity to speak to the professors and students there about what competency is and why it's important, and what the competency framework is within the Society of Actuaries, and how that could be helpful to their careers. So that was well received. Everyone wanted a copy of our brochure to get access to the book, and so that was encouraging. And so we hope to have some continuing engagement there, as well as with other universities. That's some of the things that Rich maybe can highlight. We've been reaching out to a lot of universities within the United States and outside the United States, as well as organizations within and outside the United States, to be able to present this. As you know, Society of Actuaries is worldwide, so we've reached an audience that goes beyond just the U.S., and that
Okay,
has
let me give the European perspective.
largely been Rich's initiative. So I'll let Rich continue from here.
Thank you, Curtis. Yes, I'm in Frankfurt, Germany area, and the Deutsche Aktuarvereinigung is one of the groups that I'm really targeting. And they're working currently on a competency framework for themselves. And of course, this is something that's very core to us. And that's one thing that's going on. We, a few some months back, we also had an actuary from Portugal who used to work for Hannover Re, and she's a coach now. She's very active, and she did a wonderful interview. She read our book straight through and had all her questions laid up. So that's a nice promotional piece that we have done. And this past past month, I was in Paris, and I met with Hans Wagner, who's a member of the board of the Society of Actuaries. We had a lovely lunch, and just spreading the word around the French arena. The other person we met is Renate Delires. One of the premises of our book is, if you have a spirit for adventure, if you want to do have an interesting life, learn languages. Renate speaks Walloon, I think it is, Belgian French. She speaks African languages. She speaks some Arabic, and she's working in Africa for Actuaires du Monde, Actuaries of the World, volunteer opportunity available to all actuaries, whether in the course of their career or in retirement, such as what I'm looking to do. Now, we talked over lunch, and she's doing a presentation, an educational program for actuarial students. It's not like the USA with this very well-developed insurance market. It's much smaller scale, less credentials oriented. And one of these soon days, last weekend, in fact, I translated our slide deck from Ball State University into French. And she said that since these people speak very good French and not such strong English, it really should be delivered in French. Well, it just works out. That's what I've been focusing on for the last couple of years.
Awesome.
So we had a nice conversation in French, and apparently, she's content that I could deliver the goods and even handle question and answer. So now there's another one coming up in Benin and another one in Ghana, which would be English, of course.
I want to add one footnote to Rich's remarks. The interview that we did, that as he was talking about with one of the people that he met on his tour through Portugal, is Carolyn Gregoire, and Carolyn is a contributor to our book. She features the leadership topic in part 3, and Renate Delires, head of actuaries, who works through Actuaries du Monde, is also a contributor to our book in chapter 7. So these were not serendipitous just meetings. There was a planful intent on Rich's part to connect with people during his travels with people who have contributed to our book in Europe. It's been a great opportunity to have them to share and also open up other opportunities for us in other places as well. I might add, Rich has reached out to his alma mater, Iowa University, and so we've had opportunities to connect with Iowa and other universities locally in the region. We hope to expand that beyond our limited scope, and then lastly, Rich has some prior work connections with actuaries who now work in India, and so we've had potential opportunities to present in India as well. So we feel like we're right on the horizon of great things happening. We've looked forward to this interview with you, Marilyn, to be able to be one of those horizon opportunities. So thanks again for inviting us to do this.
Yeah, it's a real pilot is the idea. Get into one university, have the book available to the students, and at the end of the semester, the students and the instructor give their assessment of it, and then it spreads out, we hope, to other universities. But that is time intensive. trying to go to each university program one by one, with us separated 6,000 miles. So one other
I can imagine.
Elias Shue, the head of actuarial science at the University of Iowa, said, "You do well to go to the Actuarial Research Conference in Toronto, Waterloo, I think it is actually this year." And Sam Broverman, who's the head of education there, we're working on doing a presentation there. And then we'll connect with all the actuarial professors around the country. So
to answer your question, there's a lot going on, Marilyn.
Yeah, that's great. Curtis, Rich, is there anything else that you would like to share before we go?
One of the things I wanted to mention is, I'm actually going to stage Rich on this one. One of the things that is recommended by many of the people who are contributing to our book is be confident, be courageous in your careers, go outside your comfort zone, stretch your comfort zone to do the things you want to do. I'd also like to say that another big important aspect of the book is in thinking outside the box. You have to be creative, and Rich has done a lot of work and suggesting different ways to be creative in the book. Let Rich continue from there.
Well, thanks for the lead in, Curtis. Much appreciated. Yes, there is a person that I have really discovered that his name is Sir Ken Robinson. He died a couple of years ago. He's knighted by the British Empire, and his work on creativity. And of course, his thing is that STEM is a bane. Just taking STEM courses, like many actuaries come in vocationally minded, they shy away from theater and dance and music. But I have a good friend, Albert Moore, works for America One, is it, in Indianapolis? And he is
One America.
He has raised One America. He has raised several children, adopted children, and they're all tremendously successful in their lives. And he was asked, "Why do you think this is the case?" And he says, "They all studied music." So the arts are really fantastically important. And the other side of it is versatility. That's why the 4 heroes of noble purpose, they had so many varied skills, whether it was physical or intellectual. They just absorbed everything they could about the world. Now, chapter 7 is led off by Roy Goldman, former president of the Society of Actuaries, former chair of the Actuarial Foundation. And he described when he was in college that he took a wealth of liberal arts courses, communication, leadership, writing, everything. On the other side, there's the mentality that it's a race. Go to college, blast through several exams, and become an associate by the time you graduate. So when you get into a company, you're plug and play, and you can bill out at a high rate and take economics, accounting, computer programming, 5 languages, all this. But if you want to have long-time career success, if you want to be having a good time beyond pure technical work when you get into your 40s and have the ability to leverage your talents to others, you have to have this versatility. And it's the creativity, the ability to absorb new ideas from many, many sources, not just insurance press, reading the National Underwriter endlessly. No, it's all your other ideas that come in. Universal life was invented by pardon?
So thinking out of the box comes from creativity.
Universal life was invented by a guy that came out of MIT. He never passed more than 4 exams, but he said, this is what you need, flexible premiums. And the computers were getting good enough to do it. And he revolutionized the business and became very wealthy, very senior in his company. And he never even had to go through the exam because he was so phenomenally creative.
That I also want to thank, in addition to Society of Actuaries and Actex Learning, Margaret Milkant, who is our editor, is an amazing contributor and coach in guiding us in what we've done. And the last thing I'd like to share is buy the book and feel free to reach out to contact either Rich or I.
But, yep, everyone can find the link below to access the book. And thank you, Curtis and Rich, for joining us today.